I want to talk about another cinematic universe, one that we hinted at before. We talked about the MCU. Now we're moving on from the DCEU and now to the DCU. James Gunn. All right. Sorry for all the abbreviations there, but that's just the world we live in. James Gunn has said that Matt Reeves will be producing projects for both the Batman universe that he has created and James Gunn's DCU. He also added that Matt Reeves is producing his upcoming Arkham series that's taking place in Arkham Asylum in the DC universe. It will not be a part of the Batman universe. Ricky Flex, love it or hate it.
So let me get this straight. The Batman universe that you're talking about is the Batman universe within the DCU.
No, the Batman with
Okay.
Robert Pattinson. There was going to be the Arkham series that was going to be similar to like the Penguin, with the Penguin taking place within the Batman universe. Instead, this Arkham series that we thought was going to feature villains that maybe we saw in the Batman universe, such as the Riddler, such as Joker, right? Instead, he's creating a Arkham series for DCU
Got
for
it.
James Gunn.
Got it. Okay. All right. Obviously, producing projects for for the Batman universe makes sense. You wouldn't want anyone else. I would rather have Matt Reeves than a James Gunn doing that because this is Matt Reeves' universe. So good there. It's with the DCU is the only question where Matt Reeves obviously very talented, knows this character, but he has his spin on it. And sure, you might want to get more minds together, right, for brainstorming. But at the end of the day, like keep him separate, like that Batman separate, and keep the DCU's Batman universe its own thing. I'd rather just not kind of mingle the two. I know it's a small project, Arkham, but this is how it starts, right? This Arkham series does well, then it's like, oh, let's come along and produce the Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold. It's just like, wait, so what are we doing here? Are we doing a Robert Pattinson type of feel to it? No, we're not. But we have the guy that is behind that feel to it, producing on it and being very hands-on with it. So then we don't get any create new creativity there. It's just I don't like the intermingling. I know this isn't a big deal right now because it's just an Arkham series. It's going to be smaller, but this is how it starts. So I'm definitely overblowing it, but I'm just saying if we come back 5 years from now and we're like, where's this direction? What are we doing here? Why is Matt Reeves producing this? This is the clip we'll go back to.
When you keep saying this is how it starts, I keep thinking of Jeremy Irons in the Batman vs Superman trailer.
That's how it starts.
Ugh,
You said it twice, and I couldn't help but get it out of. I couldn't help but like laugh.
I couldn't think of that.
I went from hating this to liking it back to hating it, like within like the 30 seconds you spent talking about it. Why? I think it's smart to have an Arkham series for the DCU. We're trying to build out right this universe, right, with all these different characters. But I don't want Matt Reeves connected to that. Matt Reeves has his own tone that he's looking for with Batman for his own sector of DC, right? And I think I like the idea of the Arkham being associated with DCU because I don't want Matt Reeves to almost have his universe explode to a point where it's going beyond a trilogy. I want him to make by the end of it the quintessential Batman trilogy starring Robert Pattinson. I don't want it to have the explosion necessarily of like an MCU, right? I want it to stay tight. I want it to stay grounded. I don't want it to get too impractical and too much stress on a Matt Reeves. With Arkham, now you have Matt Reeves crossing over. I'm afraid he's bringing that darkness, that groundedness to something that's not going to connect as well to, let's say, the Brave and the Bold that James Gunn's be having set in the DCU. Have someone else attack it. Have someone else do it, right? I do want to see more villains from Matt Reeves' universe. I thought it was a good opportunity to do so. But the more I think about it, it's more well suited for the DCU. Just get Matt Reeves' name off of it because people are just going to associate the Batman. It's going to add to confusion here. I don't like the overall move, but I like an Arkham series set within the DCU. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, completely agree. And like one last thing here would be look back at the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. He just focused on those 3 films. Yes, he did some of the most complex films of all time with The Prestige right after Batman Begins, Inception right after The Dark Knight, and Interstellar right after The Dark Knight Rises. But he wasn't working on anything else in the Batman Dark Knight universe and all the different shows or anything. There were no streaming wars back then and doing all these spin-offs and everything. He was focused on that cohesive trilogy. That's what Matt Reeves should be doing. And yeah, sure, maybe producing and helping out with a couple storylines for some spin-off shows like The Penguin that's related to that universe. But to go off and venture to a whole different universe, but with the same character, just feels odd to me, where we're just talking about the DCU and the dysfunction and the lack of a cohesive strategy. This reeks of that. So odd choice, or odd decision, not choice, odd decision by James Gunn. Again, at the early parts of his tenure, but I'm still bullish on the DCU.
I will say, I like what Matt Reeves is doing with the Penguin, though, because what I think Christopher Nolan could have done if he made the Dark Knight trilogy in this decade or at this stage of superhero projects, you could easily have said, first of all, one of the flaws of the Dark Knight is that we don't get enough screen time. One of the few flaws with Harvey Dent, like him as Two-Face. You could have had a series of Two-Face going into the final film, right? So I don't hate that aspect, but I'm just nervous that it gets too big. And you're creating this universe where you're forcing Batman to stay around for 5, 6, 7 films. And that's a lot to ask of Robert Pattinson. I don't think that's necessarily what he signed up for. Maybe he did because, once again, this is Batman that he's playing. But now that you have the Brave and the Bold, like, I don't think Pattinson has to take on that toll. I don't think Matt Reeves has to take on that toll. Just set out and execute your vision of what this universe should be, and don't get overwhelmed. Don't be stretched too thin, right? Leave whatever's happening in DCU, keep it part of the DCU. That's not like Matt Reeves' obligation in my eyes. I get it. He understands the characters. I think a lot of people understand Batman, right?
Yeah.
And the way he understands Batman is perfect for his universe, and it should not intermingle and confuse audiences that are trying to understand Batman in a totally different universe within this multiverse that the DC has set up, these different worlds, elseworlds that James Gunn has explained, right? But I will argue that if I were to have it with Christopher Nolan, a Two-Face series would have been sick, and you didn't have to kill him off after only basically 45 minutes of him as the actual villain.
Yeah, of course. But again, like, Christopher Nolan would never have done a TV show anyways, or spinoff.
Yes, but he would have had his hands on it. I mean, this man produced Man of Steel.
Right, but that's also a Superman movie that we haven't gotten in like a real one in a long time, right? So
after the Dark Knight Rises releases too. He probably was working right in tandem.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and there's probably still on the table that Christian Bale might have been a part of the DCEU. That was like a converse. Do you remember that when the DCU was starting? Like, Dark Knight Rises comes, Marvel's already 4 or 5 years in, and then you have the end of a Batman trilogy. Robin basically teased for the future. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility that Christian Bale, Joseph Gordon-Levitt would just be transitioned into the modern day DCEU.
That end scene with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah,
still crazy.
It's rest in peace, DCEU, 6 feet under now, but it's interesting to dissect.